Have you ever had a money or career question you really wanted to ask, but didn't know who to go to or just felt uncomfortable even bringing it up? You're not alone. Talking about money can feel intimidating, even scary. And that's exactly what I'm trying to change. That's why I created a free virtual coffee chat, a casual, no pressure 20-minute conversation where you can bring one thing you're wrestling with and we'll talk it through. No judgment, no jargon, no sales pitch, just clarity, ease, and a real answer from someone who gets it. If you've got something on your mind, don't sit in the confusion. Book a spot at limitfreelife.com and let's sip and sort it out. Hey there, and welcome to Money and You. I'm Michelle Perkins, your host. My search for more fulfilling work led me to career and business coaching, where I stumbled upon a game changing discovery. Money issues often start with our mindset and habits. You see, our relationship with money is the key to overcoming those frustrating financial obstacles. As an entrepreneur, coach, and problem solver, I'm passionate about helping you create a great relationship with money. Because, turns out, that's the foundation for a limit-free life. Each week on Money and You, I speak with amazing guests about all things money, mindset, practical tips, and everything in between. We're here to give you new insights, education, and empowerment so money can be one of your favorite relationships. So join us for some lively conversations and let's transform your financial life together. Hello, hello, and welcome to this episode of the Money and You Show. I'm Michelle Perkins, your host, and I'm super excited to bring you another fabulous show with another fabulous guest. I've been so fortunate to have such wonderful guests join me. And today we have someone who's going to talk about some really interesting things. Really, I know some of what the guest today, David Morgan, is going to talk about are things that you haven't heard. Things about the financial industry that maybe have eluded you because people don't talk about them very much, or we just aren't informed. So he is a veteran strategist, and he is going to reveal how global monetary policy and economic systems impact your freedom, the markets, and the future of wealth. So I'm going to give you a brief bio of David, and then we're going to jump into a really interesting conversation. I think you're going to love this conversation, so stick around. What happens when your money becomes a means for control? Today's guest, David Morgan, has spent over 4 decades warning that the greatest risk to your wealth and to your freedom is the failing financial system. He's the author of The Silver Manifesto, publisher of the Morgan Report, and now creator of the upcoming documentary Silver Sunrise. With insight grounded in monetary history and hard-won market experience, David's here to unpack money, markets, mining, and what it truly means to opt out of the matrix. Well, you got me there. I want to know what that means. So, anyway, David, welcome and let's go.
Well, Michelle, thank you very much for having me. And one minor correction there. The film Silver Sunrise has been released. It was released at the end of last year, and it's available for free at the URL silversunrise.tv. So thank you for the introduction and the invitation. I'll just start off the big picture of where we really are. And as you alluded to, this is a different take than you might hear from the mainstream. We're not in a normal economic cycle. We are in the late stages of a monetary experiment. Global debt levels are beyond historic precedent, and the system requires constant liquidity just to function. And liquidity just means we got to keep printing money. As the late great Richard Russell said, and I don't expect anyone to know who he is, but he's one of the most famous financial newsletter writers, which is what I am, long deceased. But he had the expression "inflate or die." Markets are being driven more by policy than fundamentals. I want to pause there. If you go back, 25, 30 years, if you saw a big number on the Dow Jones or this S&P 500, it was a pretty good indicator whether the economy was doing well or not so well. Today, it's more of a casino marker. It's how much money is flooded into bets on different companies. Not saying that some of these companies don't make a profit. Profit are very viable, are important to our overall well-being. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that they aren't priced in an economy where you can determine whether or not it's an indicator of how well the overall economic picture is. A large number of the stock market normally would tell you, hey, everybody's doing pretty well. Today, it means the top 10% or the top 1% are doing well, not so much for the rest of us. So I'd say the key takeaway is that this is a currency story, this disguised as a market story.
Can I just ask you how, what's your background? How did you sort of get to the point where you're even asking these questions and finding answers for them?
Well, my background is I was 11-year-old kid when the silver coin had switched from being 90% silver to Cupro nickels I call Johnson slugs. And I used to get 25 cents a week allowance. So when I got the slug in my hand, I thought, wow, that's weird. It can't be equal value. But no one seemed to pay any attention. They looked the same. They still worked in the vending machine. So, hey, but that's kind of sparked something, maybe a little spark. But I was really fascinated about money at an early age, and I wanted to go into finance. And by my dad, I got accepted to trade stocks at age 16, which is illegal because you have to be 18 to sign the contract. But there was a waiver that you got from the state of California called the Uniform Gift of Minors Act. My dad signed, so I started trading the Dow Jones Industrial Average as a 16-year-old kid. And when he asked me what I wanted to do, I said, "Well, I want to work in finance." And he had a fit. He had a tantrum. My dad was upset. He had a very big problem with the stockbroker. Said, "You're not doing that." So I read the World Book Encyclopedia Career Guide. I decided I'd like to go start flying for a living. So I started flying at age 16. Got every rating you could get by age 19. I went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, degree in aeronautical engineering, taught flying the last couple of years, and I got a job on B-1 bomber as a crew member right out of college. But my heart was still in finance. I loved the aircraft industry when I got to do that, believe me. But my heart was still in the finance, and I was working with the test pilots, and one of them whipped out a financial newsletter. I never knew there was such a thing, and it was reading it to the co-pilot, and I'm the back seater, and I'm listening to stuff, and I just couldn't believe what I'm hearing. So I asked him, how do you get that letter? And this is snail mail. I mean, this is before the internet. And so anyway, I got kind of addicted to the, let's say, alternative view of finance in the newsletter industry. And I didn't at that time say, "Oh, I want to quit working in the aircraft industry and write a newsletter." That's not how it happened. But I did have a career in the aircraft industry for over 10 years. But I was always in the markets, in options, futures, stocks, et cetera. Learned a lot about it. And then I went back to school and got a degree in finance. And after that, I left the aircraft industry, started working for a financial planner, saw how that game was run, didn't think it was really as moral as I thought it was, because what I learned pretty early was that the house kind of was telling the client base, you should buy this stock. And the reason we were doing that was so that the company could sell their stock and put it off onto their clients. So I left that and became pretty much independent. And as an early adopter on the internet, I said, well, this is my opportunity to be totally independent, publish my own without any outside influence whatsoever. And I started the Morgan Report in 1999, and here I am 27 years later.
Wow. Oh, that's a great story. Okay, thank you for sharing that. So, um, all right. So, I guess just to take us there, what are some of the key uh, things that people don't know that you've informed yourself about that you think people should know?
Well, hey, one is, the money versus currency. We use the word money all the time, and we really don't think about what it means. So this is a foundational statement, really. Most people don't understand the difference between money and currency. Currency is government issued pieces of paper or digits, electronic, that can be issued or created at will. Money must be a store of value that stands the test of time. And historically, that's been gold and silver, and it's been historically for thousands of years. And the subset of that is it's the only monetary assets that are not simultaneously somebody else's liability. So when you get paid a dollar in the paper, it's actually loaned into existence, and there's debt behind it. You never really clear the debt in a currency system or a debt-based currency system. So every fiat currency in history has failed. That's not an opinion, it's a record. It's recorded in fact. So the question isn't if the system is going to, have further problems. It's how and when. And I think we are nearing the end because there's so much information about central bank digital currencies, quantum financial system, a new payment method, perhaps looking at China and how they have a social credit score, and we can move on from there.
Wow. Okay. So, what is your sort of general feeling, advice around gold and silver?
That it's at this point in economic history, it's required by everybody, but not an overdose. Excuse the language, but most people that learn how the system really works, many have kind of the aha moment, the light bulb goes off, and, "Oh my goodness, oh, wow." And they get emotional, and they buy too much or the wrong kind from the wrong person or wrong dealer or whatever. 10% is probably enough for everyone. So, 10% is 10%. It's not like you're betting the farm that things are gonna go bad, but if they do, or I wouldn't even say go bad, although the currency is depreciating value. I think all of your viewers would or listeners would know that. But how fast? And it's a little bit of time, like you can, okay, well, that's just part of the way the system works. It is. However, it doesn't have to be that way. And secondly, they start to notice it more on the very most important things. Remember the CPI, or as my friend called it, the CPI, takes out the two most important things that they measure consumer price index by: food and energy. Wow, what a concept. Take out food and energy to measure price inflation? Are you kidding me? What are the 2 things we need as humans the most? Food and energy.
Yeah.
Anyway, I
Wow.
digress.
I didn't know
So,
that. Okay.
if we come in and see our food prices going sky high and, how much it cost, $100 bill to fill up your gas tank, people start to wake up, and that's where we are. So what happens if you own 10% in gold and silver? Well, if you had owned it in 2025, you saw your gold go up by 65% and silver and platinum went up 140%. So that's far more than what a T-bill will give. But again, you're only using 10%, which means you have about 90% left over. You got some cash, you've got some stocks, maybe bonds, maybe real estate. I'm not here to diversify people. I think that's kind of well known by most investors that you should be diversified. But most people are not diversified and think that they are. If you go to a financial planner, like I used to work for, you're told, do 60/40 or 70/30 stocks and bonds are negatively correlated. Stocks go down, bonds go up. Well, that's a lie now. It used to be that way, but not anymore. They're heavily correlated. So the only asset that's negatively correlated to the stock and bond markets are the precious metals. And therefore, that's what you want for a balanced portfolio. If this goes down, that goes up. And that's what it provides. And the reason you only need 10% is if things get really squirrely, I think I can use that word, then you'll get a huge move in the metals. And they're only going to do that if and only if everything else has got a problem with it. So if you go back to 1980, when gold peaked January 21st at 850 the ounce, that December, 6 weeks before, it was at $300. So it almost tripled in 6, 7 weeks. How does that happen? Well, it happened because there was panic buying because everyone thought the dollar, excuse me, they thought that the dollar was dying, that the inflation was so high it was going to become worthless. I mean, that was kind of the underlying theme. No one would say it probably that boldly, but that's exactly what the major thought process was. And what happened, as you may know, and many of the listeners may or may not know, is Paul Volcker stepped in and said, wait a minute, enough of this gold thing. I'm going to put interest rates up well above the inflation rate, which was at 13% at that time when they measured it accurately without the CPI lie. And so to get a bond beyond 13 and get a real true return on capital, he put interest rates around 20%. So you're getting a 7% yield above the inflation rate. And that quelled the markets and kept things going for decades. And now we're again at a point where the way the inflation is measured is not accurate. It's far higher than what's showing. In fact, a friend of mine, John Williams from shadowstats.com, still calculates the CPI as it was in 1980. And by those metrics, we're at about a 10% inflation rate.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
So a lot
So
that
a
we're
lot.
not seeing and hearing out there that is going on. Um, and I mean, I'm assuming that your report helps people kind of know some of the things that maybe we're not seeing on the regular news. And as far as the precious metals, if you want to sort of move your portfolio toward that 10%, what is the best way to do that? I mean, you kind of alluded to people buying correctly and things like that. So, how do you buy correctly?
Yeah. Before I forget, Michelle, I'm going to send you a link after the show or shortly
Yeah.
thereafter that people can have a 15-minute consultation with me
Oh,
that are
nice.
your listeners for
Okay.
free. That's
Thank
like a
you.
$250. I charge $1,000 an hour for consultation.
Wow.
Believe me,
Well,
I don't have a lot of that's a lot of money, but I'll give them 50 minutes, tell them where to buy, who to buy, how to buy, why to buy, and
okay.
not make a rookie mistake. So let me get that out there right now.
Thank you so.
Yeah, so you can, if you have an IRA, you can usually move some of it into precious metals. So you don't even have to do much more than a phone call.
Okay.
If you have a 401k, 401ks in February started allowing gold and silver. I'm not sure of all the details. Some corporations will let you do it, some may not. I'm not sure on that part. And then if you have money outside of your IRA, obviously I can help you in that situation as well. But uh, and started an IRA, especially self-directed IRAs. And I realize not everyone has a self-directed IRA, but a
Hmm.
lot of people do. So you can take what you already have and just reallocate it.
Okay.
And, that's a couple of phone calls. It's not very tough at all. And
Okay.
the company that I'll connect you with, and there's more than one and not aligned with any certain absolute, will take good care of you and make it very easy for you. So it's not that difficult. And then, if you look into, the monetary history like I have, what I dedicated my life's work to, and you understand it, you'll probably sleep better at night because there's more to life than money. We all know that, but that we're in a financial system that's rather decrepit, and there's a lot of crony capitalism and there's a lot of corruption. It's really good to look at the reality of that and do something that you can do. I mean, you can only control so much, but you can control your own money. You don't have to depend on someone else, or even if you have someone managing your money, and that's fine. Just make sure that they're in the same mindset that you are, that look, I need some protection in case the stocks and bonds go down. What are we going to do? Well, they're negatively correlated. No, I learned from David Morgan. They're not. They're not negatively correlated. So anyway,
Yeah.
I'll give it back to you.
Yeah, no, super interesting. So I can call my financial advisor with either Raymond, I have Raymond James, I have Schwab, I have a few different things going on, and they can do this for me, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
But if I want to just take some cash and invest it into this, where do I go?
Oh, well, I'll give you recommendations, but there's
Okay.
several online dealers that you can go that not necessarily the metal, and then you can keep it outside of a 401k or an IRA. That's what
Okay.
I would recommend.
Okay.
Because there's no, it's as much, fiscal freedom as you can have. You could have it stored or have it sent to you. I actually recommend keeping some in your home just in case the worst case scenario happens and you need to spend it, but that's very highly doubtful. But if you're a big investor, you don't want to keep a lot of wealth, on your property. I mean, some people do, some people don't. That's a personal choice. But there's a lot of storage facilities that are direct outside the banking system that you have ready access to it. And, again, it's a phone call. You could just drive over there and pick it up kind of thing. Also, most larger towns have a coin dealer in their town somewhere. Uh, I won't say there's a problem. You just have to shop prices a little bit because sometimes, like pawn shops, you're not going to get a very good deal. But someone that is a true bullion dealer usually will give you a pretty competitive price that you could see off the internet and determine that, hey, it's a local guy. I got to know them. I'm happy to do business with them. I want to build a rapport with them and that type of thing.
What are gold and silver at right now?
Well, I didn't check this morning, but last Friday, silver was at $80 the ounce and gold was around 4,600 the ounce.
4,600. Wow. Okay.
And it's been as high as 5,500. Yeah, the metals was really starting to run, which, makes people that have followed my work, for the last 25 years or the last couple of years extremely happy as far as they've maintained their purchasing power or probably increased it. But then there's a lot of people looking at it now saying, well, it's moved too fast and too far. And you can make that case. But again, going back to the 10%, if things deteriorate further, I can almost guarantee, I'm not allowed to say guarantee the financial world, but I can almost guarantee that they will. And at that time, maybe gold will be at 10,000. You don't want to focus too much on the paper price of gold or silver because in a true hyperinflation, there is no paper price to it. I mean, it's infinity. We're not going to get there. We're going to get a new reset. We're going to get a new system. That's what's going to happen. And when we get the reset, no one knows exactly what it will look like. I've written papers and done lectures on it. But nonetheless, we'll have a system that's programmable money and everything will be tracked, taxed, and traced at the point of sale. And that's the system we're moving to.
Wow. Okay. And does the documentary that you did, does that explain a lot? But what's in the documentary?
Yeah, it explains a lot of that and also looks at a different aspect of money that, to my knowledge, no one else has really looked at,
Hmm.
and that's the spiritual side of money.
Eh.
I asked the subset of the name of the documentary is, overcoming the control that the money powers have over our lives. Because if you look at the internet, what's the number one stressor of people worldwide? I think it's something like 80% is financial. I mean, there's a lot of divorces because of finance. There's a lot of non-divorces because of finance. I can't leave. I, can't pay the bills. I mean, there's just a lot of stress and fear and control around the money question. And the documentary tries to put you back into value rather than price and what's value in the human experience. So it goes outside the realm of money, but it ties
Nice.
back to it. But it
Yeah.
looks at, would you be happier with a less pay in a rural community doing what you love than the high paid job that's driving you crazy? There's a book out I called, I think it's Your Money or Your Life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it talks about that question because some people, success isn't necessarily determined by money, but the film goes into how much we're brainwashed. And I'll use that term brainwashed, that success is based on everything external. What car you have, what your house you have, what kind of watch you wear, what kind of suit you have. All of those things are external to you, but the true value in the human experience comes from internal. It's
Yes.
you being successful to you. What does that mean for you? And that I think is something that isn't stressed enough. I think it's really important for our children to understand that from the get-go, that it's not what's outside of you that's important. It's what you are that's important. So I stress that in the film.
Well, that's so right up my alley. I'm a big believer in the same thing. That's really why I started my company so people could hopefully, you know, dig deep inside and figure out what would give them purpose and meaning in their life and do that versus what the world is sort of, continually directing you toward, mostly because they're telling you you need to make a certain amount of money and if you don't, you'll suffer. And so you go in certain career directions and make choices in your life, based on that fear, really. So I love what
Yeah,
you're
you're
saying.
inferior, yeah, and then it's, the compare.
Yeah.
One of the early Sunday school lessons my daughters got was it's not fair to compare, but you're taught to.
Yeah.
Well, oh, they got a newer car than we do, or they put
Yeah.
a swimming pool in their backyard, all that stuff.
Yeah,
And
it's a crazy world that way because we're told certain things and then everything in the world is telling us, whether directly or indirectly something else. So it really messes with your head. I was having a talk with my son because he wants to go work on Wall Street actually. And we had the whole like, where does happiness come from conversation. And I don't know if you've ever done that happiness course that they introduced it at Yale and they thought the students wouldn't care and they like lined up by the thousands to take it. And it was the science behind happiness. And now you can get it on Coursera or something for free, but it's a really well known course that really gives you the true statistics on what makes you happy and money gets you to a point, maybe it's 75, 90,000, depending on where you live, and beyond that there's no actual increase in happiness that is correlated with money. I mean, of course, money gives you a lot more choices, and you can certainly make a case that, going to Hawaii 5 times a year will make you happier, but really happiness is exactly what you were saying. It's something else, and it comes from other sources. So I love that. But so I think this is all really really important, and I commend you for spending all these years really looking behind the curtain and understanding it better. If somebody wants to go deeper into what is going on in our markets and how are we being kind of lied to, uh, where would they go? What would they? How would they research this?
And the easiest thing is to go to my main website. It's themorganreport.com. And we made it really simplified the website probably a year ago. It's a three-step process. Step one is get on our free newsletter. And step two is to look at two documentaries. One we talked about, the Silver Sunrise TV. The other one is called The Four Horsemen. I'm in it. I don't want to make it about me. I mean, I'm in the film, but there's many real intellects in there, like Noam Chomsky and a few other really well-known people that talk about the system. It's about 10 or 12 years old, but it's as pertinent today as it was when the film was made. And it really gives the layperson a very good, honest, objective look at how the banking system works, why it works the way it does, and how the end of the age of empire is upon us. And this is nothing to really fear. It's something to be educated about because it's cyclical. We go through the beginning to the end of an age of empire. Happened in the Roman Empire, happened in the Byzantine Empire. It's happened really in Great Britain, and it's happening in the United States. Again, nothing to fear. It's a cycle. But it teaches you how these things come about, why they come about, and then gives you some ideas about what to do about it. So there's those two documentaries. Step three is if you want to go behind the paywall and you want to get involved with how to protect your wealth. I specialize, I don't do general planning. I look at resources. So we look at obviously the precious metals. We've done well with copper and uranium and lithium. We were the first to talk about the battery metals. We hit the rare earth element space almost perfectly. I got us out a little bit early. So it's anything to do with a natural resource. And I have deferred the oil situation to another newsletter writer. I wrote an energy letter for a year, Michelle, and it was fairly successful. But at my age and my specialty, I just defer the energy to a friend of mine that, and I don't get a kickback or anything. It's just because I think he's the best, and I want my people to have the best. So there's that.
Very interesting. And so, yeah, beyond the precious metals that everybody thinks about, what about these other sort of rare earth kind of things? Is that where people should be going as well?
Yeah, there are sectors, and yes, I I'm a little tongue tied. Not normally. There are a few. I haven't put any on the list for a while because these are really very small companies. Sometimes there might be an ETF. Excuse me, Michelle. And I'm looking into it. Nothing on the list currently, but I'm always trying to stay two or three steps ahead. And look, I was early to rare earth elements. In fact, I was the first one in the financial newsletter industry to even write about it. I was number one, to the best of my knowledge. But
Okay.
nonetheless, being first doesn't always mean being best. Sometimes I'm too early. You could say I was too early in the silver market. I was having people buying silver when it was under $5 a ounce. Now it looks like a genius, but those people had to wait a long time as well. So again, it comes back to knowledge, applied knowledge, which is wisdom, and having a long-term view. Most people that make the most money in the markets do it by having a clear idea with conviction and holding on.
Yeah, I really like that long-term perspective on everything. But let me just ask you then, what is the goal for, you buy these metals, you're sitting with them for a very long time. And is the goal to just keep them? Is the goal to ever
Yeah,
use them? I mean, what?
yeah, that's a great question. And I told I don't like these my people. It sounds egotistical, but people that have followed my work and have been members of the Morgan Report. I told everyone from the get-go, once silver made $100 the ounce, I would have a party. And I did that because it achieved $120 an ounce in January of this year.
Okay.
So I threw a party in Las Vegas, and luckily I was able to invite every single person that ever bought a book or anything more than that from me. So anyone who bought a book or subscribed to the newsletter for 6 months, 6 years, or one guy was there for 20, he was from the get-go. He'd subscribed for 25 years. So I had that party, and then I got feedback. And this is answering your question. So one guy showed me the boat he bought with some of it, with a lot of silver that he sold around $100. And believe me, it wasn't a rowboat. And that was his dream. And so that made me happy because he was so happy, right? The happiness thing. But that's what he truly wanted. Another guy told me that he and his wife don't have kids and they are really big dog lovers and they're starting a dog rescue. And I mean, this thing was an elaborate, well planned out, thought out facility that's going to be, from what I know about dog rescues, which isn't much, it sounded like a top tier dog rescue facility that they're going to sell their silver and build. So it's an individual choice. And as far as you asked straight out, would you hold on to it? I would say yes, give it to your kids, start a charity, donate it, start a foundation, whatever. It's your money. But I would say, yeah, if you have kids, I would say pass some on to them. Uh, but it's something to be used. I mean, it's true, it's real money, but money's a tool. I mean, you can't take it you can't take it with you when you go. And what is the human experience? I mean, the adage, it's better to give than receive. I'll tell you, when I was a 19-year-old kid, I thought that was a bunch of hooey. I mean, I was all into me, myself, and I. I thought, getting that car, getting that, all that stuff we talked about. And I've learned as I matured, that's ridiculous. But so there's a lot of ways to give, and there's a lot of things you can do. But it's an individual choice. The guy who wanted the boat got the boat. Guy's doing the facilities, doing the facility. People are giving it to charity. People are, whatever. So, but yeah, I would say as far as holding part of it, yeah, until we get the new system and we know who's who in the zoo, how this thing really shakes out, how fair it's really going to be. Is it going to be where we have a two-class society with the elites and subservient to them across the board? Let's hope not, but that looks like the way we're going, at least right now. Or are we going to have more freedom? And there's a direct correlation between honest free money and a free society.
Wow, this is so interesting. And I love that answer because initially, when we were talking about it, it was sort of a security thing. So then you
Yeah,
feel like, do I just need to hold on to this and keep it close forever? So this idea that you can use it and maybe buy another asset or build a business or do something, else with it. So, I mean, those are also ways of building security. So maybe not.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the main point for most people that aren't megalomaniacs or elitist thinkers, it's about security. And money just, the idea used to be if you had enough money, you had financial freedom and went hand in hand, financial freedom. That's no longer true, especially in China. I'll use it as an example. I don't know the time we have left, but you have a social credit score. So you could be a billionaire in China, but be a quote unquote dissident to the system because you push back on the political structure and you're not able to get a first class hotel or a plane ticket. It's not the question that you have the money. You have more than enough money. It's that you aren't socially adept to what Big Brother tells you to think, do, and say. And that's no freedom at all. So now we're in a position where we really don't have financial freedom like we used to. And unfortunately, the way under my study, you don't have to believe me, you can make up your own mind. China is kind of the beta test for the world system that's coming in maybe sooner than many people believe.
That's really interesting. So what you're talking about, I mean, it's this big crossover in my mind between economics and politics. So yeah, okay. So you're talking more politically or more economically, or are they both just completely tied together?
Well, I straighten that out in my reports. I mean, I
Okay.
write the editorial I have from day one. I've got a staff. I've got a senior stock analyst, a junior stock analyst, and some other people, that are important to the team. But I'm I won't say the brain, but one of the brains, and a couple of guys are probably smarter than me. It's not about how smart you are.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be somewhat to,
Yeah.
excel in your
It's a
field.
little
The
about
point I'm
that.
trying
Yeah.
to make is it comes from the head and the heart.
Yeah.
And I try to lay it out in very layman terms what's happening. And the last report I finished just a couple weeks ago was about all inflation's end in deflation, and be prepared for that. Most people don't know that. And what does it look like? And what does it mean for me? So there's a lot to, uncover here. I know we could dig a lot deeper, Michelle, and I really enjoyed our back and forth. I hope it's helpful to your audience because most people are never given this kind of straight, objective shooting from the hip about what's really going on. Yet almost everyone, like in the Matrix, Neo, there's some you've sensed it your whole life, something's wrong, but you don't know what it is. And that's kind of the position I think most people are in.
Yeah, this is so interesting to me, and if nothing else, I hope the takeaway is that it's worth learning more. And there's so much more than just what we see going on. And if we can get some insights like the ones you provide, then we'll just be that much smarter and that much more, able to kind of discern what's going on and how we want to react to it. So yeah, very, very interesting. So some great practical advice when it comes to, the precious metals, and then also some good insight to let people sort of, not just believe everything they hear, and go underneath a little bit, which is always good. So I mean, whatever topic it is, whether it's money or food or
Yeah,
whatever, we
sure.
all really need to know more than what we're being told, because what we're being told, there's an underlying agenda there. So
Unfortunately, there's a lot of corruption throughout the system, education, the medical, the monetary. And this is true the end of the age of empire. And it's like I said earlier, it's not something that like, oh my goodness, it's the first time in history. No, it keeps repeating. But the signals are there.
Mhm.
I'm going to leave you with this. One of my favorite quotes is chance favors the prepared mind.
Mhm.
And what that really means is that if you get insights into this, it doesn't have to be deep. I think if you watch those two films, you'll have pretty good insight for a couple
Okay.
hours of your time, maybe on the
Yeah.
weekend relaxing. And now you have an insight that most people don't. And it's like, okay, it's cyclical. It's going to turn around. It's going to be different, but we're going to come back better and stronger probably than we are right now with more, hopefully, equality for everybody.
Mhm.
Now, as I said earlier,
Yeah,
I'm
I
not going
I
to
was gonna
complicate.
ask you, just if you can just briefly in a few sentences sort of outline if things were to shift in a better way, what would that look like?
Yeah, Michelle, thank you. What would the best outcome look like? Well, basically, if you believe what I believe, and I believe money is power, and that means, the power of the money elite that control the money because they control the printing press, what happens? Well, you believe what I believe, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know how much corruption there is. I mean, a lot of the Congress critters are bought and paid for. It's called lobbying. It's legal, but they have an alliance to a certain group that feeds their campaigns. That's the truth. So in a real, true, free economic system, people control the money. And when the people control the money, then you have a lot of freedom and free will. And government does as it was founded. They are a representative of the people. The adage of the people, for the people, and by the people shall not perish. Well, in my opinion, I think it may have, or is certainly trending that. That's the ultimate outcome. However, as I said earlier, the trend doesn't mean it will happen, is toward more authoritarianism and the political class running it. But really, it goes beyond the political class. I don't want to go too deep, but it's moving toward technocracy, which means the politicians will be usurped by an AI, an artificial intelligence, and all the rules will be run by the AI, which means it's totally objective. It doesn't matter your race, your color, your creed, your orientation. None of that matters. They're all treated equally, but there's no real moral empathy or compassion with maybe an extraneous case that might be looked at differently through the letter of the law rather than the law itself. So, unfortunately, as the technocrats take over, politician class subsides, and most people will cheer that because of the corruption in the political class, but they don't know what they're really going to have to deal with.
Yeah.
But again, the great reset may be the great reject because especially Americans are known to do the right thing at the last moment.
Huh.
And there may be some type of libertarian type of thinking that comes to the fore on a nonviolent manner that just say, no more. I'm not going to do it. You can keep it. I don't want the new banking system, or I don't want whatever it is. So It's not over till it's over. And as I was told a long time ago, everything works out in the end. And it hasn't worked out yet, so we're probably not at.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, that was a great way to wrap up. Thank you. I feel um I agree with you, but I feel like that was a very hopeful ending that things do usually work out. Well, we may not know what it looks like right now, but yeah. Okay. Well, David, thank you. So I'm going to put a link in the show notes as to how to get your report, how to find the documentary. Anything else that you offered that lovely little invite to speak with you for a few minutes. So I'll get a link from you on how to do that, or do we just go to your website? What do we do?
Well, I'll give you a link that you can send
Okay.
out to your group. And
Okay.
I will, and this is not I don't make any money on books. This is the last book I wrote with David Smith, Second Chance. How to, it's a long subtitle, How to Make and Keep Big Money from the Coming Gold and Silver Shockwave.
Wow.
But it's really an investment book. And I have one guy, so it's one data point. Please don't hang your hat on it. But he said, this is the best investment book you ever read. Now, that's one person, but it's generally an investing book, a lot more than a precious metals handbook,
Okay.
because it talks about cycles and it talks about taking profits. A lot of people, when they're new, do a round trip. They buy a stock at 5, it goes to 50, they think they're a genius, and they hold it because of some belief system that goes all the way back to 5. That's called a round trip.
Hmm.
Never, ever, 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 ever do that. That's not investing.
Wow, so interesting. Yeah, I still don't really know a strategy for, when
Yeah,
to
and
take.
there's several in there,
Yeah.
and there's the 1 or 2 that will that makes perfect sense. It's concept's so easy, I'm gonna do it, and it's like an autopilot. It's like putting your airplane on autopilot. I know how to fly, develop the plane fly itself. It's really that simple, and it's a strategy. Sorry, I'm getting a little excited because some people just don't they get greedy, they don't take a profit when they should, or they just hold on too long, and you don't have to. You can just mechanically, automatically take some profits. You get out of the exact top? No. Only an amateur thinks they're gonna get out of the exact top.
Yeah.
Only an amateur thinks they're gonna get in at the exact bottom. Anybody that's been in life or in the markets knows you wanna get in relatively early and you wanna get out relatively, before the crowd exits. It's pretty simple.
Wow.
And the greed thing can, mess you up. The market, I think, has a good propensity to expose your foibles. If you're always late to the party, you're probably late to the market. If you're too early to the party, you may be too early to the market.
Mm.
That's me. I'm a little early. I'm like, oh, But anyway, but at least I know my,
Yeah.
my flaws.
Oh, I love it. Okay, that's great. Thank you for showing us that book. That sounds really, really valuable. So, um, well, this has been great. I mean, if I can see where there's so much more that and that you could share. So I would really encourage people, and I myself, I'm going to go ahead and get your newsletter. And so, thank you so much. Thank you for everything you shared. And it's always exciting to have somebody on where the light bulbs are just popping, and you want to know more, which is really the point of
Or
this
the
show. I'm hoping people get an interest in money and want to know more. And so, thank you so much. And yeah, great advice and great discussion. Really appreciate you being here today.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And audience, thank you. So thank you so much for listening. I sure hope you will subscribe and rate and review the Money and You show. We love bringing you shows and great guests like David. And the way we do it is to keep, people are the subscribership growing. And so thank you so much for that. Share it with your friends. If you think you know people who could benefit from the show, please share it. And we will see you next week. Thanks so much.